Welcome back to First Turn in 10, everybody, a series where we do the first turn or first 10 minutes of a game. As always, if you're new here, this is not a rules explainer. There are millions of rules explainers for these games out there. I just wanted to give you an idea as to what the game actually plays like. What do you do on your turn? What's the first 10 minutes look like? This game is called, and I should have got the box already, this game is called The Restless. It's a hand-drawn cooperative survival game for 1 to 4 players, created by Winslow Domain. This guy basically drew everything, created this entire game by himself, from what I understand, and the artwork really sucked me in, if I'm honest with you. Um, it's essentially like a dungeon crawler. You have 5 realms you're trying to get through. These are big, chunky cards. You have 5 realms: one, two, three, four, five. What's really cool on the art here as well is part of the theme of this game is you're on this wasteland of Earth. The gods have betrayed you, and there's like this roiling cloud following you. And you can see on the backs of the cards, as you go through the realms, the stars slowly start to get covered out. And by round 5, obviously, pitch black. Or at least that's my interpretation of what's on the back of these cards. Each realm will create a certain specific rules. Again, I'm not going to read anything on these cards, but it'll tell you a certain change to the core rule set. So, for example, this one says all combat encounters are considered to have all target types. The first encounter is a pick from 3. The last, again, I'm not going to go into what that actually means, but it will change the rules slightly for every single realm. And obviously, as the realms progress, more and more dark shit starts to happen. You have 3 rest cards. So, rest, again, these are randomized. You don't know what kind of rest you're going to get. There's only 3 in the game, so as you move through the 4 encounters per realm, so you'll draw an encounter card from the encounter deck. Now these could be fights, they could be merchants, they could be any kind of encounter. You have your 4 characters, and this game is from 1 to 4. I've played this solo. I want to apologize. This game is so big. It's hard to give you some context. So this fills up my table. That's the standard card size. For context, this is a Keyforge card or your standard size card. So you can imagine these are the smallest cards in the game. Everything else, like I said, the rest cards, the realm cards, everything is really big, really bold, and I really like it. So you get your starter weapons. Again, I'm not going to explain everything. Another thing to notice is there is only one counter type. You get a big bag full of these counters, and they're to denote everything. So you use them to denote your health. So this is, let's say, for example, the Loom Breaker. He has 10 health. He can carry 8 things, and his melee damage is 1. Everyone has a melee, like they're unarmed, essentially, their melee damage. Now, I've got the Loom Breaker with a primitive spear here, so I actually do 2 damage. And again, you have certain traits, certain things that help when it comes to fighting. Okay, so once the game is set up, you have all your characters set up and whatever they do. They also have these little keywords that might interact with a special weapon. I'll give you an example here. The reversed, for example, he's got this ominous trait. This is a petty lodestone. It does 1 damage. You essentially throw it at an enemy, and then once that enemy gets destroyed, you can then pick it up again. But it also says if your tag is with the Ominist, or sorry, if it is equipped by the Ominist, targets have this added to their drops, have -1 die defense to ranged rolls. So basically, it sticks to them and it causes their range rolls to be -1. So again, certain weapons will interact better or worse with certain character cards. How the game works: this is essentially once everybody's set up, once you've got your weapons, once you've got your health, your armor, your magic, your spells, you essentially draw the first card in the encounter deck. We've come across Colin Meat Giant. He's got a certain type. I've forgotten what that kind of type is. The enemies will have 4 types. They'll either be humans, beasts, interplanar, or phenomena, and that might have certain impacts on certain weapons. I found a weapon once that did 2 less to phenomena because I think maybe they're a little bit not as solid. So this guy has got 2 attack. To fight him, you have to beat a 9 with a d20 to hit him, and then he's got 20 health. The party may discard 1 food card to reduce the die defense of this card by 1. So you can throw him a little bit of food. If we had some food, I think we actually do have some food. This, I think, technically is a food, but I'm not going to worry too much about it for here. And then Trapper, if the party plays a rest card, immediately after this card dies, restore 2 health to all characters. So if I have a Trapper, which I actually do, you can't really see that, the Rider is a Trapper. So immediately, if we manage to kill this guy, we can immediately, and we wanted to rest, we would immediately heal everyone for 2. Now, we're probably not going to rest after the first encounter of 4. Remember, we're going to draw 5 realms. This is only the first realm of 4 encounters. So, and at the very bottom here, this is what we would get. So we would get 1, let me get focus there. We would get 1 treasure card and 1 loot card. These are different rarities, I think. I'm not quite sure. And how combat works is we choose who we want to attack first. So if we're playing as 4 people, we might say, I want to attack first because my character gives everyone after this +1, or, different things. Again, I'm not going to go into what every single character does. You'll have to learn that for yourselves. But if we take, I don't know, the Hounded here, for example, he says add +2 to all dodge rolls for all characters. Once per realm, you may redraw an encounter. So you might say to yourself, I want to redraw this card. I don't like it, essentially. And then all characters do something on death as well. They trigger. If you die, they'll trigger a certain ability. Now, at the very core of this game, let's ignore everyone's abilities. Let's just pretend the Loomebreaker is going to use his spear. We have to roll a 9 plus. So let's see what we do. We actually rolled a 9 on the button. So what we would do is essentially do 2 damage. Now I haven't taken out, 20 coins here. I had to put 20 coins, 20 health, whatever you want. He's down to 18 now. Then I move to the next person might say, okay, my ability actually allows me to do something off the back of that ability. So you might want to trigger them in different orders. Now, if I had rolled under a 9, let's say I had rolled a 3, this character then would do 2 damage to me and I would remove 2. In the rules itself, it always says like sort of separate them, so you always know what the max health is, rather than taking away those 2 coins, picking them up, because you might forget that the max health is 10, or you might actually get abilities that allow you to get more than 10 health. So you would whack your way through this guy, going around in circles, using your consumables, using your abilities like your spells, your count, all of these things to hit this guy until he has no health left. Let's assume we've done that. Maybe we've taken some damage. People are down low, and it's tough. Like some characters have, some enemies have quite a high, roll to beat, and you will get weapons and stuff that sort of increase your modifiers. So let's assume we've killed this guy. We would draw from the top of here. We would get we've actually drawn a sin and a heap of vegetables. Now this, I'm going to take the next example just for the sake of this video. Should have prepared this. So we might have got a Crook's Hook, which is a melee weapon, or a heap of vegetables, consumable food. If you remember earlier on, this card had allowed us to discard a food to basically reduce this from 9 down to 8. This will consumable restore 3 health to all characters, give all characters 1 armor if we have a herbalist, which we do not. But this has a rest symbol on it, and we can only use this when we use this rest card. So we can't use this at any point during these until we choose to rest. And then the Crook's Hook says add +1 to your combat rolls for every character with a sin. Aha. Now, realistically, we wouldn't have drawn this card. We actually drew this card. And sins automatically have to be taken, and you're corrupted. It'll give you some sort of debuff. It'll generally mess with you. And there are several sins in all of these decks. So you're risking going looking for loot and things like that. So I would have to assign this sin to a character, wherever it might be. And then I would take this heap of vegetables and give it to somebody else. It has a weight. It also has a value. You may come across traders and you can sell them. Again, you can use these coins as sort of purchasing. I did forget to mention, you do get 5, and I only have 3, 4, 5. You do get 5 reroll tokens as well. So if there's a die roll that you don't particularly like, you can just do a reroll. And I'm almost approaching 10 minutes right now, so I won't go on too much longer. But that is the core of this game. You uncover these encounters. So we would have killed him. We'd move on to the next person. This is, I don't know what this is. I haven't seen this before. So Katarian Inversionist. The party picks one. Give a character any trait. So these are the traits down below here. So traits are very beneficial, especially if you want them to sort of sync with some of your weapons. So for example, this spear is, if you're a trapper, you get +1 to your range rolls while using this weapon. So it might say, okay, the Loomebreaker, I'm going to give him the Trapper trait as well, so he can now take advantage of this Trapper ability. Or shuffle the status effects deck together, draw two, and assign them as desired. Or make an item weightless. Weightless, obviously, meaning the thing weighs nothing. So you might have a character that doesn't have a huge amount of carrying ability. Like, for example, the Hounded here can only carry 4 units of weight. So you might say, okay, this thing now weighs 0. So now I can give him more gear. And everything comes with a great little bit of flavor text as well that sort of, might depress you a little bit, but all part of the theme of the game. And that's the core of the game. You eventually get through, if you manage to get through the 5 realms, you come against one of the betrayer gods, and as always, they look gross and sick, and you fight them in a sort of interplanar zone outside of these 5 realms, and they'll change the rules again in a certain different way. I want to be careful of spoilers. One other cool thing Winslow has done is he's put a lot of blank cards, so you can create blank end bosses, you can create blank encounters, blank weapons. So you can design your own cards within this game as well if you choose to. Now, I'm not a creative person, so I might go on BGG and find some things that people have created and swap them in and out. We'll see. But that has been the first turn in probably a little over 10 minutes, but there's a lot to explain there of the Restless. Let me know in the comments below if you like these kinds of games. As always, if you've made it this far, I think you should have hit the like button by now and maybe subscribe for more of videos. All right, thanks for watching. Bye bye bye.